Welcome to Lobby Concessionals, the movie podcast where nobody's right and everybody's wrong. I'm Parker, and that's Brendan. This is our first episode, which is pretty exciting. If you like what we're putting out, please make sure to like and subscribe. Follow along. We'll be putting stuff out pretty regularly. We'd be stoked to hear from you. In honor of the Oscars that are coming out, I believe when we're releasing this episode, should be next week. Should be next week. This upcoming Sunday. We figured we'd take a look at some snubs and talk about the Oscars in general and who's really missed out. In particular, in honor of Denis Villeneuve not getting nominated for Best Director after Dune received how many? 10 nominations. We figured we'd take a look at this. And so, Brendan, you had some ideas.
Well, the original conversation was based specifically around Tom Cruise and how I felt like nobody's had the run that he's had over his, what is it, almost 30-something odd year career now? More than, yeah. Yeah. In terms of success and quality of movie. And yes, I know that's a weird thing to say about Tom Cruise, quality of movie, but I think that's the point of this conversation. Mm-hmm. So the conversation originally was, has anybody ever had a better run than Tom Cruise? Which basically leads into the idea that Tom Cruise has never won an Academy Award for actor, supporting actor, anything. So does he deserve one?
Yeah, it's a good point. He is not the first person I would think of when it comes to people that have missed out on an Academy Award. So frankly, I'm a little surprised or I was surprised when we first discussed this, when you first tossed this idea around, that Tom Cruise was the name you were floating.
Yeah, again, so much of it is, I think this came about, I think we were talking about those Mission Impossible films.
Sure.
And how I think they're incredible.
Absolutely they are.
Right.
Yeah.
But because he's kind of just moved into that niche in Hollywood, I think people forget that he's an actual serious actor.
Totally.
With serious movies and has again, when you put his resume up against anybody else's, I don't think anybody could measure up. And I think a lot of, he made one bad dance move on a couch and his career just...
Like, was that a dance move? Not worth going into, but you're correct. I think a part of that career just, or not, no, he's still great. But the part of his career being mainlined into one particular kind of film is probably Scientology. Like, I don't think we can have any sort of discussion about Tom Cruise without at least mentioning it.
And this is going to be this is going to be something about his career, not his personal life, because we understand he's batshit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Let's get that out of the way. I don't think he's a normal dude.
I think fundamentally you have to understand.
Yeah.
Again, any conversation about Tom Cruise, you have to understand that there's a level of insanity there.
Yeah. But I think it has to do with people's perception of him because he's crazy, that he doesn't make good movies or he's never made good movies. And I think that is just untrue.
Fair. Okay. So what kind of what run are we talking about here? Are you starting back as early as Risky Business?
I think All the Right Moves for me. 1983 is All the Right Moves, and no, you know what? Arguably, I'm because I'm a big fan. I know a lot of people aren't, but The Outsiders. The Outsiders happens in 83 as well, I believe, or 82.
It is 83.
It is 83. So from The Outsiders, arguably up till I think we've discussed maybe 2005, he's got less than a handful of bad movies.
Yeah, 2005, his only film is War of the Worlds, which I would not say deserves to be among this discussion.
Sure.
I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad movie.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't argue that it was worthy to even be discussed for Oscars. But I wouldn't say anywhere near his performance being considered for awards in War of the Worlds. Yeah. So for me, the cutoff would have to be Collateral in 2004.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
So, what are we talking? 30 years there? 83 to 2004.
That's 21 years.
That's not 30 years. You're correct. Man,
but it's close.
That's really upsetting.
It's close. So we're talking, and like I said, so from 80 to what is that? 20? We said 21 years.
You said 21 years.
I said 30, years, and we don't know.
Who's to say?
So we think. I believe. I don't know that I could name more than 5 bad movies in that run. And yes, that's subjective.
Sure, absolutely.
Right, but I don't think I could do it. If you listed me off, and that's the thing. When we had this discussion, and you were like, "Really, Tom Cruise?" And then I started listing the movies.
I was fairly convinced, or at least surprised. I think there's a fair amount I've forgotten there. Now, that being said, I agree with what you're saying about this being him having an incredible run, because he does. However, I think we're starting off on the wrong foot if we're trying to discuss how many bad movies there are in there. Because you're right, so much of that is subjective. Is it good? Is it bad? I think we should probably try and focus ourselves a little bit more on, is it award worthy? Is it Oscar worthy? I understand the Oscars might not be exactly a good word to throw around, like that can be a bad word right now. And some of the politics involved in that can be pretty brutal. But I think Oscar worthy is probably the best way of defining this.
Okay, so if that's the case, I guess we should start with, it's not that he hasn't been nominated.
Absolutely.
I actually think he's been under-nominated, too.
Likely. I believe he's been nominated 3 times.
3 times, and I think one of them is supporting.
Correct. Yeah, so he's got 2 best actors and one supporting. So the very first one that we are hitting with him is 1980 or the 1990 Oscars. And actually, that's a good point to point out. Whenever we're talking here, we're going to talk about the year the Oscar event happened, not the year the film came out. So the 1990 Oscars is for movies that came out in 89.
Okay.
So the very first Oscars he was considered for was the 1990 awards for Born on the 4th of July.
That's the first.
Very first.
Right.
So they skip out on Color Money. They skip out on, I don't know if Risky Business really deserved it.
Rain Man. Was he nominated for Rain Man? He must have been nominated for Rain Man.
He was not nominated for Rain Man.
Here we go already,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Now, granted, his co-star was nominated for Rain Man and won for Rain Man.
It's gonna be a reoccurring theme with him.
Absolutely.
That he like Color of Money was the same way. Paul Newman won.
Correct.
And he didn't even get nominated. But Elizabeth, what's her name?
Couldn't tell you.
Mastrantonio was nominated.
Oh, okay.
And he wasn't. So everybody in that film got nominated but him.
Yeah. Well, so let's look at what he was nominated for.
Okay.
So to start off the conversation, we got Born on the 4th of July. First impressions from my side of things. When I first saw this movie, it surprised me because it wasn't the Tom Cruise I know.
Yeah.
It was very noticeably a different Tom Cruise.
Sure.
And someone that definitely had, a larger range. However, one thing I noticed is he doesn't cry in that movie. Now, you don't need to cry to get an Academy Award, but I did take it as a little bit of maybe a sign of some of his range, where I'm like, okay, he can managing the anger, he manages the yelling and screaming, he manages the shell shock fear of war. Can he cry? Unclear. However, he's incredible in that movie.
He's so good.
Yeah. Personally, I think he's a little bit upstaged by Willem Dafoe, but not that Dafoe was even in the running either. He wasn't nominated.
Dafoe wasn't nominated.
Or, sorry, I don't actually know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was, if Dafoe was nominated, it was for supporting actor. So...
Right.
But so, I think the big question here is, beyond whether his performance deserved that, or sorry, even let's say his performance does deserve it, what is he up against? You know, like if he's delivered an Oscar-worthy performance, clearly the Academy thinks he has because he was nominated for the award. But I think we have to look at who else was.
Okay, so who do we have then?
So I've got Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society.
Oh, God.
I've got Morgan Freeman in Driving Miss Daisy, which personally, frankly, I've never seen. But like, I also kind of have no desire to see.
It's fine. He's great in it, and he deserves to be nominated.
He does?
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Fair enough. We've got Kenneth Branagh and Henry V. Really? You're gonna defend Morgan Freeman in Driving Miss Daisy?
It's not that I'm defending Morgan Freeman. It's just like it just feels like that's what Kenneth Branagh is gonna be nominated for.
Well, yeah, but you get nominated for what you're good at.
I get it.
You know,
I get it.
The guy
I get it.
kills it at Shakespeare.
And when you put it that way, the Morgan Freeman sounds like a really bad take.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
right?
I get it.
And then we have the winner of that year is Daniel Day-Lewis, My Left Foot. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Daniel Day-Lewis gets nominated. You aren't winning that year. That's like I don't care who you are. You know, like.
Honestly, if that's the class that he was up against, he's like fourth best. You know, like if it wasn't going to be Daniel Day-Lewis, like Williams and Dead Poets Society would have been my pick.
Yeah, I would also pick that. But I think, in fairness, some of that might be due to the cult status a bit that movie is not cult status, but like the following that movie has.
Sure.
Dead Poets is stuck around literally more than any of those other movies. Like that is still a movie that is resonated.
But that's literally because of Robin Williams. So
absolutely it could be. But I just mean that like these performances might be well worth it. But part of the reason that movie is that I would pick him is because that movie is still relevant 30 years later.
Yeah. And I guess they're not handing out awards for how impactful that movie is going to be 20, 30 years down.
Well, and I have the benefit of 30 years later. You know, like they only had 1990, right? And they were like, okay, well, so they just picked someone. And then obviously they have to do that every year. So that's what they're going to do. But yeah, I agree with you. I would say if it wasn't Daniel Day-Lewis,
then it's definitely Morgan Freeman.
And it's definitely Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Gonna have an ulcer.
Okay, so he wasn't gonna win that year regardless.
Yeah. And I guess my argument is based on the class of performances we're seeing that year. Sure, he deserves to be nominated.
Yes.
But does he though? Like he's not in that class at this point in his career. We're talking. This movie came out in '89. I believe he's been acting for 7 years, or IMDb.
It's like 8 years or something like that. Yeah.
So he's still fairly early on in the career.
Yeah.
I see this a little bit more like like Jennifer Lawrence getting nominated for Winter's Bone. That's basically her first movie. It's an indie flick. There is no way in hell she's ever winning for that.
Yeah.
But it was great to be nominated. And it's sort of like the Academy noting the fact that, hey, up-and-comers do matter. And it's important that this performance is...
We've had a lot of one-hit wonders, though, or a lot of, out of the gate, like Anna Paquin in The Piano. Is it Piano? She wins that, and I think she's 10 years old.
Honestly, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm sure you're right. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not out of the question that a newcomer can win it, right?
Absolutely. I think it's far more common as far as the Oscars are concerned, as far as the legacy is concerned, that a newcomer gets nominated and then gets passed on. The other two people I can think of right off the top of my head, literally one of them I don't even know. Can't even remember her name. Beast of the Southern Wild. I believe she was 9. She broke the record for the youngest at the time. She got nominated. Again, I truly don't think anyone had any intention of giving her that award.
Yeah.
But it was great that she got nominated. And then the other one is, again, can't remember, don't know her name. The girl from Precious. Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire, as we heard 300 times at the Oscars that year.
Well, funnily, maybe that's a good segue, because, the next movie he would be nominated for would feature a new actor of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nominated and won.
Correct. He's referring, of course, to Cuba Gooding Jr. in Jerry Maguire. And this is a sore spot for me. Because as far as I'm concerned, of the people in that movie, Cuba Gooding is very low on the list of people that should have won an award. Like, he's not bad in that movie, but he's just yelling. He spends the whole movie yelling. And then the one big moment for his character is where he gets hurt on the field. But the pain, isn't even him. That's a stuntman stunt person, I guess. And like, granted, sure, maybe he doesn't need to be smashed on the football field to really show off his talent as an actor, but he's one note that whole film. He is buddy to Tom Cruise, and he's yelling at his wife. Or not like. He's not really yelling at her. It's more like yelling next to her.
To be fair, she's yelling quite a bit at him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Regina King, holy smoke. She's incredible in that movie.
That might be my favorite thing she's in, because I'm not a big fan.
Oh, I think she's dope. And she's amazing in that. So again, when it comes to people that should have received an award, Regina King is way higher than Cuba Gooding Jr.
And before people get on us about this, like, I understand Cuba Gooding Jr. was in Boys in the Hood.
Sure.
So this isn't like a new thing, but he wasn't a star.
Absolutely.
In any kind of shape, way, or form.
Well, and he's actually in A Few Good Men that came out 5 years previous, also with Tom Cruise. And he is a beat moment. Like, he is there. He testifies at the trial for, I think he's maybe in a scene for 2 minutes. And then I think we see there's maybe 1 or 2 shots of him previous. But like, there is no way that he is receiving true credit for that role, And
I think he's in Outbreak, the Ebola virus movie. But again, I don't remember if that was before or after Maguire. But again, the point is he's also relatively new in his career.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If the argument is that, well, Cruise isn't in that class yet.
Mm-hmm.
Cuba got nominated and won. So I don't know if that, I don't know if the new career thing holds a lot of weight.
Fair. I think, speaking of the new aspect, Jerry Maguire, just for context sake, comes out for the 1997 Oscars. So again, comes out in 96. So this means that Tom Cruise has had a 15-year career at this point. And bangers. The guy has been putting out work. Like, let's take a quick aside and just go through some of these films. We start off with All the Right Moves, maybe even The Outsiders.
I would start with The Outsiders, because I have a point with that later.
Outsiders, Risky Business, All the Right Moves, Legend, Top Gun, Color of Money, Cocktail, Rain Man, Born on the 4th of July, Days of Thunder, Far and Away, A Few Good Men, The Firm, Interview with a Vampire, Mission Impossible, Jerry Maguire.
So up till then, he maybe has 2 bad movies.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? And arguably Legend, I know Legend flopped, but that's a culty movie now, right? Like, that's a cult hit. And I hate Far and Away.
I don't think you're alone.
So that's a subjective thing, but other than that, there's not a lot of bad movies in there.
No. Is the first Mission Impossible a bad movie? I don't know. Like, personally, I think Mission Impossible truly gets good at Ghost Protocol. I think the second wave of Mission Impossible films is the true quality of that series. But there's a couple in there. I'm not a fan of Top Gun. I think Top Gun's ridiculous.
I think you're ridiculous.
It's the volleyball scene is easily the best in that film. I think it's like kind of boring. Beyond the cool factor and that objectively incredible volleyball scene, there's nothing really there worth discussing. But
we just lost all of our street cred.
Like, granted, that wasn't high. But either way, my point is that, like, even that, I would split hairs on Top Gun.
Yeah.
But, like, we're talking banger after banger after banger.
Yeah.
So we finally get to Jerry Maguire. That year, 1997 Oscars.
Yeah.
We've got...
Who we got?
Billy Bob Thornton for Sling Blade. Ray Fiennes for The English Patient. Woody Harrelson for The People versus Larry Flint.
Yeah.
Flint. And then we got Jeffrey Rush for Shine.
So it's a stacked class.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, I think that one, to be completely honest, I have seen one of those movies, of the 4 I've just listed, which may be a crime in and itself. I've heard Shine is incredible. But that is the weakest year as far as I'm concerned. I think that's a year where he could have...
The only one I haven't watched is Sling Blade. I'm not a big Billy Bob guy.
Yeah.
But Shine is great. People versus Larry Flint is amazing. So I would be okay with if Woody took it there. And that was English Patient's year, right? Like, they were going to...
I'm not an English Patient fan.
I don't think anybody really is.
Yeah, no.
So and that's a different conversation. Is that the year that, Oscar baity movies become a thing? I mean, I think it's always a thing. Sure. But I think growing up, The English Patient was the first time I'm like, I don't even know what that movie is.
Yeah.
And it won like 8 awards or whatever it might have won. So, is
that Pulp Fiction year?
No, Pulp Fiction year would have been 95.
95. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you think that Tom Cruise is in the same class of actors there for Jerry Maguire?
I do.
You do?
If we're talking about his performance in Jerry, he cries in it.
Does he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he cries in it. Or no, he doesn't.
He might, but I don't remember specifically. And
I watched a lot of Tom Cruise movies
when
the
I
last 2 weeks.
These films. Yeah.
All they're a little. Yeah, there's a lot of.
The first time I remember noting him crying was in the next film we're going to discuss. Okay. So he could have in Jerry Maguire, and I missed it. But frankly, the fact that it's not something that I can, like, you or I can guarantee happened.
Fair enough.
Maybe shows that the scene wasn't that impactful if it did occur. I think he deserves, like, I can see him deserving something just for Show Me the Money. That scene in itself, him screaming in his office, peak.
I mean, it's such a weird pop culture thing too, right? To that scene in that moment in history, and you get worried that it's overblown. It's the Forrest Gump "Life is a Box of Chocolates" thing.
Oh, totally.
So you are like, is that thing? But I'm like, yeah, but it's a reason. There's a reason it's that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
and you're right. He's incredible in that scene.
Yeah, he is. And again, Cuba wins. Cuba Gooding Jr., Best Supporting Actor.
And you're you're just upset about it.
It's a nightmare. And like,
yeah. Oh, he cries. He cries when he has to leave, when they break up, and he goes
and he's getting in the van.
No, when he's like creeping over the kid's bed before he leaves. Like, they break up in the backyard.
Oh, right.
And then he goes and he stares at the kid, and he sheds a tear. He sheds a tear. So it's there.
Just as a quick aside, I do think some of the message of the movie is strange. The fact that effectively what they end up saying is, he likes the kids, so settle. And like, don't get me wrong, I cry in that movie. Not that that's a high bar. I cry a lot in a lot of movies. But it is a strange moment to be like, oh yeah, like nothing. By the end of that film, by that You Had Me at Hello, which again always gets me. It's not even like that amazing. I know it is. It's an incredible one. It's incredible. And I will fight anyone on that. But like, we're supposed to be celebrating the fact that like a guy that they've acknowledged openly is not great for her, and like a relationship that really isn't great, but he loves the kids, so therefore
it's kind of it's a reoccurring theme with Cameron Crowe movies, with like maybe like a weird guy or like a girl that shouldn't be together and are together for very strange reasons or are put together really fast. Almost Famous, Say Anything. You know, the boombox thing. People are like, yeah, that's really romantic. Is it?
No. No. But, like, I also think there's a lot of things that happen in 80s. I think it's 80s romantic films that aren't romantic.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's like the Every Breath You Take by the police. Like, no. That's not a romantic song. That's a terrifying song.
It's a great song.
That is literally a nightmare. For women everywhere. Like,
so, like, and the thing that gets to me is how unrealistic it is. Like, how cute does that kid have to be for me to even think about marrying Renee Zellweger?
Have you seen that kid, though?
Yeah. So he's really cute. That's the only way that would work.
So cute. I would do so much for that kid.
Oh, okay.
I don't even like kids that much.
That was a bad time to take a pause.
Yeah. Okay, fair.
Okay. So, like, I would have been okay if he'd won for that. I think he could have, and arguably that might have been his last good shot at it.
I disagree. Yeah, but we can get.
Yeah,
to
we'll
that.
get to there.
But you truly do believe, just to summarize, that the competition that year, first of all, was good enough that, like, are you upset that he didn't win, or not? No, are you upset with who did win?
Who won?
Jeffrey Rush was Shine.
Oh no.
So it doesn't upset you that he didn't.
No.
However, you wouldn't have had a problem if he did.
If he won, I wouldn't have had a problem.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so then third and final nomination is for Best Supporting Actor, Magnolia. This is a film that I have just watched for the first time in the past week or 2 weeks, whatever. And as I'm watching it, I realize that I have seen things from it be memed.
Yes.
So in particular, that one,
the crying scene.
No, not even the crying scene. I have seen. No, it's just the singing.
Stage. Yeah, the stage
singing.
Part. Yeah.
Scene where it cuts, and I think the scene is beautiful.
Yeah.
In context of the film, I think if you pull it out of its context, which memes do, it is weird. It is a weird look. You got, like, John C. Reilly singing a song not meant to be sung by John C. Reilly. It is strange.
What's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, right? Like, it's gonna be strange.
Good old PTA. Yeah,
I love it. I know you're not a fan, but
for the record, after watching Magnolia, I have decided I need to go and do more PTA stuff.
Nice.
Because I think that I think I chalked him up to Boogie Nights,
which is a great movie.
You know, and I've actually never seen. I watched part of it in a film studies class, and they turned it off, and then I was just pissed that they turned it off. So I decided that was Boogie Nights' fault, and I was never going to watch Boogie Nights. So I have to change that opinion. But either way, I thought that was sort of his one trick. So there was definitely some PTA stuff I need to see.
Yeah.
Notably, which I'm sure we will discuss in another episode, There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
But anyway. So he gets nominated for Magnolia for an incredible performance of screaming at incels, respect the cock. Amazing.
Now, who's he up against?
This is the big thing. We got Jude Law for The Talented Mr. Ripley. We have Michael Clark Duncan for The Green Mile. We have Michael Caine for The Cider House Rules.
Ugh.
And cream of the crop here, Haley Joel Osment for The Sixth Sense. Truly no disrespect to The Sixth Sense. But what are we doing?
The kid got nominated for one line.
Yeah. But what a line.
What a line. So who wins?
Who do you think wins?
I'm trying to remember, and I'm almost... It's gotta be... It's not Cider. It's not Michael Caine, is it?
It is Michael Caine.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it because...
Like, reading this list in my gut, knowing, first of all, that Tom Cruise doesn't win, as far as I'm concerned, this should be Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah.
Green Mile's incredible, and he is absolutely amazing in that. Now, granted, the fact that the rest of these 4 are alive and Michael Clark Duncan isn't might be part of it. Like, might just be part of me being like, he's an incredible performer and he deserves recognition for that. So I wish that he had received this. I have to acknowledge that fact.
Sure.
But as far as I'm concerned, this is his year. This is Tom Cruise's year. And for whatever reason, he's denied that. Because I think his performance in Magnolia is amazing.
I haven't watched it in a while. I remember watching. I know he's great in it, and I'm a big fan of that movie. In my mind, he's not in it enough.
It's supporting actor. He's not nominated for Best Actor.
Sure.
I think I don't actually have the number in front of me, but Alec Baldwin won a supporting actor Oscar award for Glenn Ross for, I believe it was an 11-minute scene.
Oh, but he says like 800 F-bombs in it.
Oh, it's a lot. And the scene is incredible.
Yeah.
And the impact to society is undeniable.
Yeah.
Like, I went to business school, and that shit is touted. ABC. And it's like, wow, do we have to watch this scene again? And it's not even that good from an academic point of view. But, like, business profs love trotting that stuff out.
It's just, I get, if you look at the amount of screen time everybody else in that category gets, like Haley Joel Osment arguably could be a main actor in that movie. Michael Clark Duncan was in that for quite a bit.
Yeah, I would say he's probably got at least 40%.
Right. And then Jude Law is in a huge part of Townsend Mr. Ripley. So screen time wise, I struggle. Maybe that's where he loses it. Maybe. That's a bullshit answer, and that's a bullshit excuse.
It's ridiculous. Because, like, the Academy doesn't care about that.
Obviously.
Historically speaking.
Yes.
Again, even just the Alec Baldwin argument is that, like, that's not something that matters to them. So I think this is a case of Oscar bait, where you, like you said, Cider House Rules is an Oscar movie. That's far more what the Academy leans into, versus, again, Tom Cruise screaming at a group of incels, respect the cop. The performance is amazing, but that's not the performance the Academy wants.
Which is funny because, again, at the end of the day, Paul Thomas Anderson becomes Oscar bait
very quickly.
Within
a decade.
Within the decade. Like, because I get Boogie Nights, Magnolia.
Yep.
And then I think is it Stranger Than Fiction? Or is it Punch Drunk Love? It's one of the two of them. I think it's Punch Drunk Love.
I think Punch Drunk is earlier,
yeah. So he becomes a bit of an Oscar darling. So the idea, that we go back to 2001 and a Paul Thomas Anderson movie isn't Oscar baity enough is hilarious to me.
Absolutely. It's ridiculous. But I think the big moment for PTA is There Will Be Blood. And I think that's what people would probably point to as his magnum opus. I think that's the word, magnum opus.
Yeah, you're right.
It is magnum?
Yes.
Okay, cool. To me, that's the peak of Oscar baitiness. You got Daniel Day-Lewis. We're sunk. We're good.
Yeah.
So it's a shock that this isn't Oscar baity. But I also think it doesn't matter what name is attached to it. Same with the Denis. Like we talked about earlier with Dune.
Yeah.
He should be an Oscar baity director. That's someone the Academy should love.
Yeah.
And he isn't.
Okay, so that's unfortunate. It hurts my heart thinking about Dune.
Absolutely.
So this is where you think he should have won.
This would be the hill I would die on. I think Jerry Maguire is great. He does a great performance in that. Yeah. I think it's Tom Cruise. I think it's Tom Cruise the whole way through. He doesn't strike me as someone different than what I've seen before. He's not playing against type. He's not being weird. I think in Magnolia, he's supposed to be. His character thinks he's a cool guy, but he's not. He's super lame, and everyone dislikes him. you know? And like, that's not what we see for Tom Cruise. And frankly, we probably don't see that kind of character again until Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
When he's Les Grossman, you know, and like, I think everyone can sort of buy in to fat Tom Cruise dancing to Flow Rider, but like
a jacked up.
But like, you're not buying in because you're like, this guy's the coolest dude ever. You're buying in because that's hilarious. And I've met people like that, you know, like that have that level of confidence. So I don't see that again. Everything else strikes me as when you boil it down, it's Tom Cruise still. That's still who he is. Magnolia is different.
Yeah, okay.
Of his nominated films, because I have other points to make about non-nominated.
Okay, well let's do that. Let's say, so we've talked about how I said earlier I think Jerry Maguire might have been his shot.
Sure.
His proper shot, and you disagreed. Obviously Magnolia, I think we both agree it's an incredible thing. I think it's tough with the for me, it's the screen time and the people he was up against. I think it would have been. But what are there any movies left after that you would make the argument for?
After it chronologically.
Yeah.
So the big one, my heavy hitter, as far as I'm concerned, Tom Cruise should be nominated at the very least nominated. Let's start there. Nominated for Collateral.
Agreed.
So 2004.
He's ridiculous in that movie.
What shocks me about this, first of all, is I don't know entirely what I would nominate him for. For me, I would say of the two categories, he would probably be supporting. I would consider Jamie Foxx the lead in that movie.
I agree.
However, the Academy does not agree because Jamie Foxx was nominated for supporting that year for Collateral. Interestingly, he was also nominated for Best Actor for Ray, which is deserved. However, him getting both and then somehow Tom Cruise not like
at all.
Can they both be supporting actor? As far as I know,
they can.
So there's no lead in the movie?
I don't know for sure, but I know I'm almost positive there's movies where there's been two supportings from the same movie.
Like, I don't have an issue with two supporting from the same film.
But
if that literally leads no lead,
which is fine.
Name one other person in that movie. There is people in there, but like it's those two. So
sure.
So I don't think he like. I think part of the problem is he gets screwed because he gets shoved out of that supporting actor category that year. For lead actor, if he was forced into that bucket, we have Jamie Foxx with Ray, who wins.
Okay.
We have Don Cheadle with Hotel Rwanda. We have Johnny Depp with Finding Neverland, Leo DiCaprio for The Aviator, and we have Clint Eastwood for $1 Million Baby. That is a stacked year. That is unbelievable. Like, he is amazing in Collateral.
But he's not as good as those five.
No, he's not. He's not even in the class of those five. Not for those five films. Like,
I would argue maybe Finding Neverland.
Sure. Now, granted, you have a bit of a grudge against Johnny Depp. Or not a grudge, but you're not a Johnny Depp guy.
He's great in that movie, though.
He is. He's really
phenomenal in that movie.
Yeah.
But if you forced me to take one guy out to put Tom Cruise in there, it would be that movie.
I agree. However, I still don't see him winning for this, even though he probably deserves an award. Now, we swap it out. Nominated him for supporting, which again I think he deserves.
Sure.
We've got Clive Owen for Closer, Jamie Foxx for Collateral, Thomas Hayden Church for Sideways, Alan Alda for The Aviator, and Morgan Freeman for $1 Million Baby.
So that's winnable.
It's winnable. Morgan Freeman wins this, and I don't think that's wrong. $1 Million Baby is amazing.
Sure.
It also swept the awards that year. I think it won like 12. So it's kind of not a surprise that he won that, even beyond his performance, which was again amazing.
Yeah.
The fact is, the Oscars were like, we're giving all the awards to $1 Million Baby, and then they did that.
But it's that thing, right? Where we're not upset Morgan Freeman won. But we wouldn't be upset if Tom Cruise won instead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't I would make an argument that Tom Cruise puts on a better performance in Collateral than Morgan Freeman does in $1 Million Baby. Like, I would even go as far as that, where I think he should have been nominated. He should have won.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get it for Magnolia, he should get it for this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
After that, basically
it's a drop off, eh?
It's pretty much a drop off. The very next year after Collateral, I think that was the last time he was really like, I'm going to go for it, you know? He does War of the Worlds. He gets right back into Mission Impossible films, which, again, amazing.
Yeah.
We got Valkyrie a couple of years after, Collateral, which is a fine movie. Like, it's okay.
The Jack Reacher movies.
Yeah. Which I loved the first Jack Reacher. He was
great.
The
second one's not great.
Yeah, I heard it. Really bad.
The second one's not great.
And like, it's the wrong casting.
Yeah.
My understanding is that character is supposed to be jacked and like 6'6", and Tom Cruise is neither of those things.
Yeah. And then there's the three. My big three for him in terms of we talked about him having just a handful of bad movies, but the big three in this era, and that's Night and Day, it's Rock of Ages, and it's The Mummy.
Yep.
Right? You can make an argument for Oblivion.
Yeah, I never actually watched Oblivion. What I took away from it was just Duncan Jones's Dune, or not Dune. What am I saying? Moon. Sorry, they sound similar. It was just a bad version of Moon.
Yeah.
And I really loved Moon, so I was mad enough that I wasn't going to support Oblivion. The very next movie that he could theoretically, I think that maybe the last ditch of him trying for an award is American Made, where he plays a drug smuggler.
This is the one I haven't watched, and you just did.
Yeah, and it's fine. It is, it strikes me a little bit like The Wolf of Wall Street, where they're trying to take a fairly serious topic and they're treating it with a fair amount of humor and a fair amount of energy. And it is a very high energy film. It's fun to watch. But it never manages that switch that Wolf of Wall Street pulled off, where they shift the tone so it suddenly is a serious film right at the end. And it makes you care about all of those things, and it makes you realize how terrible a person this is. You see it the whole time.
Sure.
With Jordan Belfort in Wolf of Wall Street, but you're kind of cheering for him. Like, he's still sort of the underdog, and then a moment hits, and you're like, oh my god, he is the most reprehensible human being I've ever seen. So none of that happens in American Made. Tom Cruise is just charming kind of the whole time. It's kind of fun watching a guy, live the dream on the backs of the U.S. government, on the backs of Colombian cartels.
Yeah.
And like, neither of those people were upset about that. Like, they also supported it. So it's a fun movie to watch, but you don't have that switch. And it doesn't sell it. And again, he's just Tom Cruise. There's nothing else there. He's not. No.
So is that in looking at a grander picture of this, whether or not his run is as amazing as I think it is, which it still is. Don't get me wrong, but is it because he's just Tom Cruise? Is it because he's all these, even the movies he's great in, he's still just that guy?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. I think that what it really comes down to is the fact that he is that person in basically everything, and he owns it. Now, my argument is that there have been people that are really good at playing a particular role, and they're born for something, and they don't exactly get. There are people that have won awards for being really good at doing one thing. And for whatever reason, maybe because Tom is too big for his britches, he did the dance on the couch. I don't know. He was too successful. They decided that it wasn't worth giving him an award for being really good at what he does, for being really good at being Tom Cruise,
right,
when they have done that in the past.
Fair enough. So you want to do this conversation now in terms of, I have like, in my mind, if we're talking about the art and the craft of being an actor.
Sure.
Why don't we give as much weight to the amount of punishment that dude puts his body through for those Mission Impossible movies as a best actor thing? I mean, you're gonna give Jared Leto or Christian Bale a nomination for losing 60 pounds.
Yep.
Whatever. So why aren't we giving Tom Cruise nominations for just breaking every bone in his body and hanging off the side of a plane?
He deserves credit for that.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways he gets credit for that from even just a behind the scenes point of view.
Sure.
You know, like he does get accolades for what he's willing to put himself through. And frankly, those Mission Impossible movies wouldn't be as good without it. I think part of it is that I know that a lot of those things are real, but also the shots are amazing. You're not going to get, you look at an Avengers film and they've got great shots, sure. But like it's very noticeably stunt people. And there's lots of things you don't get close-ups. You don't have a plane taking off with them holding on to the side.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember seeing something online where someone was upset because they realized that Tom Cruise had a line attaching him to the side of that plane, and they're like, "Well, that wasn't as real as he said." And I'm like, "Guys, he's still on the exterior of the plane while it took off."
Yeah,
like. People are so used to all the crazy stuff he does that him being tethered and like safe while doing that stunt was considered to be unrealistic and crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like,
or it was like having him like extended and like running across the world's tallest fucking building.
Yeah,
and then apparently it was like, well, he's connected, like it's safe.
He had a line. Come on. I think the problem with that argument is that the Academy doesn't award stunt people.
Sure.
So if we start talking about, because effectively what he's doing are stunts.
Sure.
And you're right. Christian Bale, Jared Leto, both have put themselves through lots of body transformation things.
Sure.
Usually putting on or losing weight.
Yeah.
And have done it to award success. But that is considered to be different than free climbing a building.
Yeah.
So I think once we get to a point where stunt people are treated with the same respect that they should be in the industry, then maybe we can start having that conversation about Tom.
So never. Like
never.
Academy-wise.
Correct.
Never.
You know how many times we've heard about this shooting at Rust? We keep hearing Alec Baldwin's name. Do you know who got shot? I'm sure it was in an article somewhere, but like, Now, granted, I get it. He's the celebrity. He's the decision maker. He was the one that pulled the trigger. I see why, from a media point of view, his name would be mentioned.
Sure.
But, like, again, there is people in this industry that aren't being treated with the respect they deserve.
Yeah.
So, outside of the putting his body through hell side of things, is there another film? Is there another performance that you think has been skipped?
I think if you can almost throw a dart between 1983 and 95, and you could probably hit something that he deserved to win for. Rain Man. I think he should have been nominated at the very least for Color of Money because he's great in it. I would say, you can make the argument for The Firm and A Few Good Men.
Sure,
they're not maybe as strong because it is just a lot. It's still just Tom Cruise doing Tom Cruise things.
Absolutely.
But again, he's still doing them to the more better than anybody can do. Tom Cruise. That's probably a reason. Right?
A Few Good Men floored me because it's very noticeably Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise, but it's his delivery and confidence matches that character and fits that performance perfectly.
Yeah.
So no one else could do that. And again, I think that's. The Academy has awarded people for performances like that in the past. It is shocking to me that he wasn't even nominated for A Few Good Men.
And I think, again, you just see the people who he's with. You know, in The Firm, it's Gene Hackman, and in A Few Good Men, it's Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Right? Rain Man, Dustin Hoffman, Paul Newman in Color of Money. So it's all these people that are just, I don't want to say better than him. But they are.
I don't have a problem with saying that they're better.
Yeah, it's tough. So he's going to get overshadowed in all his best movies.
Yep.
So I think those are the ones that stand out to me. That I would be like, man, I wish he would have not won for Rain Man. or nominated for Rain Man. I don't even care what year that came out or who was up against.
Yeah, sure.
I think he should have been in it. I think Color of Money, as young as he was, as early on in his career, and how good he is in that movie, I think he should have gotten a look. Especially everybody else in that movie, once again, got nominated. And then I think you can take a look at A Few Good Men and do the same thing.
Well, and so just to be clear, though, Rain Man, the reason he doesn't win for that is because Dustin Hoffman wins for Rain Man.
I get it.
You know, so like it's sure would have been nice that he got nominated, absolutely, but he was never going to be Dustin Hoffman at that. And the same thing with Color of Money.
I get it.
He's not going to beat out his co-star Paul Newman in that film. He's not. And so, like you said, he's with better people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, from an acting point of view, what does that mean? That we that Tom Cruise, if he wanted to win this award, should have been with worse actors? That's ridiculous. You know, like
yeah.
And I think that's actually a pretty good segue to the final kind of area I wanted to touch on for this. Is that I think what really upsets me about Tom Cruise not having won an award is the fact that the Academy has been known historically for giving awards based on political reasons and based on basically the career till now. So whether or not they deserved a reward for that performance or that specific performance, they win because they should have had it before.
The makeup award.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the example I've heard thrown around is Matthew McConaughey in Dallas Buyers Club. And the argument I've heard, and again, it's a conspiracy theory,
of course,
basically, right? But the argument I hear is that he doesn't deserve it for that film, but the Academy gave it to him because he was incredible in True Detective, which was the same year. And that obviously they don't touch TV.
Sure.
So because it was a small screen, but it was a monumental performance.
Sure.
And such a turn for him. I think that was a big thing too, is that previously he was the, rom-com guy that took his shirt off.
What, you're not a big fan of fucking Made in Manhattan?
Oh, huge fan of Fool's Gold. Big Fool's Gold guy.
I know you're a massive Sahara guy.
Oh, Sahara. Oh, man. Peak of cinema. But for him to turn from that to be Rust Cole in True Detective is
sure.
Like, so granted, his turn to be in Dallas Buyers Club is still, that's a big shift. To be Ron Woodruff, he's made a big journey there.
Yeah.
However, he's still really Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. And he's awarded that because of True Detective.
Yeah. It's also the Leo and the Scorsese thing, right?
Absolutely. Now, Leo has just been snubbed a lot because it's not even like he just had some
That's
bangers.
A different conversation. Like,
yeah.
This could easily be a conversation about Leo if he hadn't won for Revenant.
Yeah.
Right? So there's probably 7 movies he could have won for before that.
Oh, at least.
Yeah. And Scorsese, to me, obviously, as most listeners are going to find out very quickly, I'm a big Scorsese guy. So the idea that it took him to The Departed to win it is mind-blowing to me. So those are always my 2 big ones, the makeup ones, but they got it. But the difference is they're still putting themselves in a position to get that award. And Tom Cruise is not. He's going to keep making Mission Impossible movies or whatever movies, and he's never going to be able to make that up unless he starts changing that up. And I don't know if he cares to anymore.
I think he's been slighted enough. And I think I'd feel the same way, frankly, if I was him. If I put banger after banger out for like 20 years, 21 years we decided, then like how can you get professional fulfillment out of that anymore? When the body that is supposed to pat you on the back just continues to refuse to do so.
And at some point, he'll get that Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh, absolutely.
But do you like? If I'm him, I don't even know if I show up for that.
Oh, I show up. Absolutely. If these guys are finally gonna kiss my ass for 10 minutes, I'm gonna take that 10 minutes.
I think at the end of the day, if the question is should he have more Academy Awards, probably. Does he deserve more nominations? Probably.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's not the 3 that I said earlier. Maybe it is just the 1.
Yep.
Whether it's for Magnolia, whatever. He deserves 1.
I think 1. Yep.
I think he deserves 1. But the body of work, and in going through it and like rewatching all these movies and looking at that resume, he's the only actor I know that worked with the big 4 that weren't George Lucas. He has a Scorsese film, a Coppola, a Spielberg, and a De Palma under his belt, and nobody else has that.
Wow.
Right? Like the amount of stuff that this guy's done, and doesn't get recognition for. Yes, he's the stunt guy. Yes, he's the crazy Scientologist guy.
Yep.
But he worked with those guys, and that's not including Michael Mann, Ridley Scott, Tony Scott, on top of it.
Yep.
But no, like the idea that not even De Niro, Pacino, Leo have worked with those 4 directors is insane to me.
Yeah.
So I think the point, it's almost like a weird Tom Cruise appreciation post, because I just think people overlook him and kind of take him for granted. And I think he was the blueprint. I don't think a guy like Leo exists without a Tom Cruise. And
that's an interesting argument.
And I know he's just taking that Hollywood leading man thing from the Paul Newmans, from the Cary Grants, from the Humphrey Bogarts and all that stuff, and he's kind of just rolling with it. But he kind of, box office numbers wise, he took it to a place where most guys couldn't dream of, and then maintained it.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. I think I have a hard time saying he's a blueprint for Leo. However, and you're going to hate this, so, get ready. I see him as a blueprint for someone like Jeremy Renner. And I know you think he's a terrible actor.
I don't think he's a terrible actor. I think he looks funny.
Well, he does look funny, and there's nothing wrong with looking funny. But I also think that's a guy that started out, and he had some bangers in the early 2000s there. Throughout the 2000s, that whole decade. Notably, The Hurt Locker is the biggest one. And then he basically stopped trying to go for awards. And, he was in a movie that... has a crazy premise about him being a white supremacist and dating a black girl who he believes is a reincarnated version of Hitler. And apparently, it's amazing.
And he didn't win an award for that?
He did not win an award for that. Shockingly. I'm just saying that he definitely had a decade there where there was an argument that he could have or should have been nominated or considered. He was nominated for Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
But that's it. And then basically decided, meh, and makes action movies. He's forever going to be known as Hawkeye.
Yeah. I'll go back to the blueprint thing for a hot second, just to clarify. So maybe not so much like that leading man thing, but the idea that the leading man, like Renner, is going to make a lot of great movies.
Sure.
And not a lot of them are going to make a ton of money. But guys like Leo and Tom Cruise, and very rarely, not many other guys could do this, are dependent on to bring in dollars as well as quality.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a big thing.
You see a Jeremy Renner movie, you're not going to be like, well, I need to see it now. But you see an untitled Tom Cruise film.
Yeah.
Even if they just literally never decided to title it, you're going to get to watch that movie.
Yeah. So there, in his earlier career and those 15 years, there were quality movies that made money. And Leo has always been a guy from his early on. Yep. From Titanic Gilbert Grape and Basketball Diaries and all that stuff. But once he got blockbuster status, he was a guy that was dependent on to make good movies and profitable movies.
Yeah.
And most guys aren't relied on that.
No, and not at his level. You're correct. I see what you mean by that blueprint for sure. And it's disappointing that Cruise isn't
looked
rewarded
that way
for
anymore.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know that he ever will again. That's the thing. I think he's so far gone
agree.
in terms of his reputation, in terms of the movies he makes, and how far down the rabbit hole his personal life has gotten him, that I don't know that people are going to remember the first 20 years of that amazing career.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And I think so much of that is lifestyle choices and media choices.
Yeah.
His appearances have not been great. Outside of more scripted press stuff. Like the stuff in the tabloids has been brutal about him.
Sure.
And has been brutal for a long time.
Yeah.
So his relationships with his kids, all of that stuff, I think that puts such a stain on his, and again, obviously the Scientology stuff puts such a stain on his reputation that I can't imagine he's ever going to be considered seriously for awards again.
Yeah.
However, that being said, Mel Gibson's considered seriously for awards nowadays. And so that reputation was in the toilet. And he just went away for a while and came back and expected everyone to love him. And then they did. So, like, I don't think it's... I don't think that the ship has sailed for Tom. But I don't think he's interested.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? That's the difference. Is like Mel Gibson could have just not cared, but he did.
Correct.
He came back and he made Oscar baity movies.
Yep.
And all that stuff. And Tom Cruise, I just don't think he cares enough anymore. And the other thing that sucks is I just don't think as bad as he looks in those media appearances or those stories, they're not nearly as bad as anything Mel Gibson has ever said.
I hear what you're saying for sure.
So much of it is his personal life. What he does with his kids is, I don't know what he does with his kids. You could tell me a news story, but I don't know. But I know what Mel Gibson said.
Yeah. But I think part of the issue, the problem is Tom Cruise is effectively the face of a crazy cult. And Mel Gibson's not, that doesn't make him a good person.
Nah.
But he doesn't have the crazy cult thing on his back, He's just got all of the racism and bigotry, which should be a massive weight, but apparently was really
but Mel Gibson's not on the billboard for that. And Tom Cruise is in every pamphlet.
You're correct,
right?
You're correct. Yeah.
Like Mel Gibson isn't
Racist Monthly.
Yeah, Mel Gibson isn't the only racist I know, but Tom Cruise is absolutely the only Scientologist that I know.
Yeah. Or the most famous of them, because there's been a few other whack jobs. Travolta was one for a bit, but
he kept it under wraps though. He did a good job.
Well, then he left. That was the biggest thing. Is he was like, "No, this ain't for me anymore."
Well, I guess that's the difference between and it's weird that Travolta doesn't get enough. It's just Tom Cruise might be crazy and a card-carrying member and the face of Scientology.
Sure.
But he didn't make Battlefield Earth, guys.
He didn't. Yeah. And we owe him that. He could have made a Battlefield Earth.
He could have been. But we'll all be really excited when Tom Cruise is the next Tony Stark.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. Anything more to add?
No. I just hope everybody listens and goes watch a good Tom Cruise movie, man.
Yeah. Watch Magnolia and then don't at me when the crazy frog scene comes up.
And then watch Top Gun.
No.
And then definitely at him.
Don't watch Top Gun. We can talk about Top Gun Maverick, but don't watch.
We can talk about all of it.
Do the whole volleyball scene. Whole thing on repeat.
Yeah, you have to, because when you watch the whole movie, you have to watch the whole scene.
Oh.
No. Watch some Tom Cruise movies and enjoy him while we have him, because I think once he's gone, I think I think we take guys like that for granted.
I agree completely.
Right? And in a day and age when good movies are hard to come by, that guy puts out good movies.
Yeah, pretty consistently. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments what you think about if you have another actor that had a better run than Tom Cruise. Once again, I believe we've decided on a 21-year run. And that could have been a 30-year run. But
it could have been 30, but we cut it off at Jerry Maguire. And that's not at all the case.
No, I meant just from a math point of view. 21 or 30.
Yeah, but 21's pretty solid.
21 is... Yeah, incredible. So let us know if there's someone else we've missed or aren't considering that's had a better run, and is just as overlooked as my boy Tom Cruise. Yeah, like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next week.